Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show here on Newsmax TV. The audit of the Arizona vote continues, and the left-wing extremist minority in the United States isn't at all happy about it. But the American people, inspired by Biden's large lurch left, they are showing signs that our nation's downward trajectory is unacceptable to them. Salcedo Show is seeing signs of leftist desperation and a collective pushback from we the people. The lying press, nervous socialists, and the building American rebellion. Some observations in tonight's preamble. Over the weekend, the self-absorbed liberal opinion host over at CNN, Jim Acosta, opened his potty mouth and blasted Fox News.
But the damage was done, pumped out over the airwaves at the bull factory, also known as Fox News.
I've noticed a lot of cursing on air. It's become a trend over there. I guess their research shows that using foul language kind of resonates with liberals. I don't know. It's about the only thing CNN does that actually generates headlines these days. And certainly Mr. Acosta, can't get noticed for any of his other journalistic pursuits. He hasn't done any honest reporting for some time now. He's either out of practice or was never very good to begin with. That's neither here nor there, but let's look at the substance of the criticism generated by this anti-American degenerate. He accuses Fox of being a BS factory. Many of you have written to me commenting on the hard left pivot Fox News has taken in some of their shows. Chris Wallace, Neil Cavuto, among others, have earned our viewers' ire. But for Jim Acosta to be casting such large stones from his rather sizable glass house is, well, kind of rich. Undercover video recently revealed that CNN allegedly abandoned news coverage in favor of propaganda, their words, not mine, in the 2020 election. BS by any other name. Acosta himself has been a frequent purveyor of fake news. In January, Acosta set off a fake news wave when he reported that a bust of Abe Lincoln was, quote, leaving the White House, leading many, including left-wing lunatic Keith Olbermann, to claim the bust was being stolen. If Acosta had any knowledge of the White House tradition, he would have reported that the statue was being returned to a museum. Now, traditionally, incoming administrations choose their own items from the national artifacts to decorate the White House during their terms. But Acosta didn't say any of that in his tweet, leaving rabid jackals who watch that network to assume the worst. But while Acosta was bashing Fox as a BS factory, he conspicuously left off, some of his liberal colleagues, perhaps in anticipation he may one day work there. NBC, air quotes, News has grown infamous for editing 911 tapes to meet their liberal political agenda, not the facts of the story they're reporting. Over the weekend, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani slammed the New York Times, NBC, air quotes, News, and the Washington Post as fake news outlets after they retracted or published corrections to stories following the FBI raid on his home. As if they were all hearing from the same anonymous source. All three outlets reported that Rudy had received a so-called defensive briefing from intelligence officials. The briefing allegedly let Rudy know that he was being targeted by the dreaded Russians. The only problem, no such briefing had ever taken place. Many Americans are growing hip to the fact that this is the kind of unfair treatment that effective conservatives can expect from the corrupt and biased press. As a result, Americans no longer consider sources like CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times, or NBC, air quotes, News to be credible sources of accurate information. Rather, they are reliable propaganda arms for the intolerant left worldwide. Now, on the other hand, ineffective Republicans are adored by the un-American press. Take Mitt Romney. No, please, take Mitt Romney. He faced conservatives in his party this weekend, Utah's GOP convention. This is how it all went.
So, yeah, I understand that I have a few folks that don't like me terribly much, and I'm sorry about that, but I express my mind as I believe is right, and I follow my conscience as I believe is right.
Right. He followed his own conscience when he voted against the Constitution in a vote of vengeance against President Trump. Now, most of those conservatives who gathered there in Utah were under the silly impression that Romney was in D.C. to reflect their will, not his own. Now, you can see why CNN loves guys like Mitt Romney. But Romney does have his backers in the GOP. Susan Collins condemned the people of Utah. Yes, she condemned the people of Utah for letting Mitt Romney know what they thought of his job performance.
I was appalled. Mitt Romney is an outstanding senator who serves his state and our country well. We Republicans need to remember that we are united by fundamental principles such as a belief in personal responsibility, individual freedom, opportunity, free markets, a strong national defense.
Did you catch all that? When the people raise their voice, demanding that their elected officials represent them in D.C., elitists like Susan Collins call that appalling. And by the way, on that list of things Susan Collins said was supposed to unite conservatives with Republicans, I didn't hear fidelity to the Constitution or the rule of law. I don't think that was an accident. Good news is that Americans are waking up and noticing and voting. Over the weekend, Texas Republican Congressman Lance Gooden tweeted the following: Liz Cheney has promised she will campaign on impeaching Trump every day of the week. Good luck with that. Prediction be her GOP leadership role by month's end. ABC News seeming to echo Trump keeps winning rounds in GOP's civil war. ABC's Rick Klein taking note that Liz Cheney is being forced to defend her position in House leadership again. Cheney's with Joe Biden last week only added to the angst conservatives feel over Liz Cheney's swamp creature status. A voter rebellion is said to have sponsored another no confidence vote. This time, few Republicans seem willing to go against their angry voters to defend Liz Cheney's indefensible actions, voting to impeach President Trump before knowing all the facts January 6th. And yet there's more. In Texas, Democrats were shut out of a congressional race in the 6th congressional district. Republicans Susan Wright and Jake Ellzey, Democrats, and will compete in a runoff. Many Democrats blamed Biden's out-of-control border crises, saying Democrats in the Lone Star State are growing increasingly weary of all the harm that Biden is doing to Texas. In the same state, in a school district we featured on Friday's show, Southlake, Texas, and Carroll ISD, they voted over by a 70% margin to replace their leftist school board with folks who would not allow racism to be taught in government-run schools, even racism against whites. Everywhere you look, the silent majority is flexing its muscles. They are working to secure the vote, working to replace their ineffective politicians, working to take back their communities, and turning off fake news. The rebellion is growing, a rebellion against self-interested media and a corrupt government. It's a hopeful sign. Now, what would be the next left-wing domino to fall? The cancerous cancel culture, perhaps. We'll see. Now,
hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest-growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.